If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night and felt like someone was standing over your bed, watching you, let me give you a warning. You're not imagining it. Some shadows don't belong to the walls, and some eyes don't close when you do. If this happened to you, what would you do? Before we get into the full story, kindly give this video a like. It really helps YouTube show it to more people who love scary stories like you. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one if you genuinely like what I do here. Turn on post notification too if you want to get notified when I send a gift your way. Also, tell me where you're watching from and what time is it there. Now turn on the fan to have that soothing background hum while you listen. Story 1. The house I was renting at the time was nothing special. It was small, one bedroom, with creaky floors that sounded older than the paint on the walls. I had moved in because I wanted peace. I was tired of city noise, tired of neighbors who slammed their doors at odd hours. This house was quiet, tucked at the edge of a town where the streetlights didn't quite reach. At night, when I lay down, the only sounds I heard were the faint ticking of the clock on my nightstand, the occasional bark of a dog somewhere far away, and the whir of my fan as it pushed cool air against the room. It should have been perfect for sleep, and for the first few weeks it was. Then came the night when I noticed something strange. I woke up. Not suddenly, not startled, just awake. The room was dim, lit only by the faint orange glow of a street lamp leaking through the blinds. And that's when I saw it. A shape, darker than the room itself, standing by the foot of my bed. I told myself it was a trick of the shadows, my eyes adjusting to the dark. I pulled the blanket closer and shut my eyes again. When I opened them minutes later, the shape hadn't moved. The first time it happened, I dismissed it. My mind must have been half dreaming. But the second night, it was there again. This time I sat up, my breath uneven. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound. It wasn't leaning forward or reaching toward me. It was just standing there, watching. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and when I looked again, the space was empty. Maybe it was my imagination. I wanted to believe that, but the nights kept stacking, and so did the visits. The shadow didn't always come right away. Some nights I would fall asleep peacefully and wake around 3 a.m. to find it there. Other nights, I'd feel the weight of being watched before I even opened my eyes. It was never closer, never farther, always at the same spot at the foot of my bed. I tried convincing myself it was nothing. Maybe headlights from a passing car, maybe my mind playing tricks. But one night, as I tried to roll over, I noticed something that made my skin prickle. When I shifted, the shadow shifted too. Not in the sense of moving, but in the sense that it stayed aligned with me, as though it adjusted its stance to keep its gaze locked. I froze under the blanket, staring at the dark figure, and whispered into the silence, "Who are you?" No answer came, but the shape seemed denser, more solid than before. It wasn't just the sight of it. I started hearing things too. Soft knocks, like fingertips tapping the wall behind my head. A faint dragging sound across the floor, though when I switched on the lamp, there was nothing there. I tried leaving the light on all night, thinking maybe it was the darkness that made it appear. But the next morning, when I woke to the buzz of sunlight creeping through the blinds, I noticed footprints in the dust near the foot of my bed, bare, human-sized, leading nowhere. By the fourth week, sleep became impossible. Every creak, every flicker of movement in the corner of my vision set my nerves on fire. I started staying awake with the TV on, volume low, as though some sound might keep the shadow away. But the figure didn't care. It began showing up even when my eyes were open, even when the room was lit. A dark outline, still and patient, like it knew I could see it now and it didn't matter. One night, I woke to something new. Instead of standing at the foot of the bed, the shadow was closer. Much closer. It was on the side of the bed, near my legs. Its head was tilted, like it was studying me, like I was the only thing that mattered in its world. My throat tightened as I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I blinked once, twice, and it didn't fade. Instead, I felt the faintest pressure against the mattress, as if it leaned forward. I scrambled for the lamp, my hand shaking so violently I almost knocked it over. When the light flicked on, the space beside me was empty, the mattress flat again. but I swear the air still held the warmth of something that had been there. The climax came the night I made the mistake of pretending to sleep. I thought if I lay still long enough, maybe I could catch it moving. I kept my eyes nearly closed, breathing steady, waiting. Hours passed. My body begged for rest, but I held on until I felt it. An undeniable shift in the mattress near my feet. The shadow wasn't at the foot of the bed anymore. It was on the bed, crouching, its weight pressing against the springs. Slowly, carefully, I cracked my eyes open. What I saw is burned into me forever. A dark form leaning inches from my face, its features indistinct, but its presence overwhelming. My blanket felt like a barrier thinner than air. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything, but my body betrayed me. I stayed there, staring into the void of a figure that had no face but eyes I could feel on me. The next thing I remember is morning light flooding the room. I was still in bed, the blanket twisted around me, the clock flashing 7:02 a.m. I told myself it had to be a dream, but then I noticed the faint indentation at the side of the mattress, like someone had been sitting there all night. I don't know what the shadow is or why it watches me. I've moved since then, but sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I wake up with the sense that someone is there again, just waiting for me to open my eyes. Would you have kept pretending to sleep, or would you have tried to run? Let me know in the comments below. Story 2. They say sleep paralysis is harmless, just a glitch in your brain where your body lags behind your mind. But whoever wrote that never felt their chest being crushed by something they couldn't see, never heard the growl of a voice whispering threats in the dark. I used to laugh when people called it demonic. Then one night, I learned the hard way that some dreams don't let go, even when you wake up. Started like any other night. I was exhausted from work, lying in bed with my phone in hand, scrolling through useless posts until my eyes blurred. I set the phone down, let the fan hum quietly, and let myself drift. The night was calm. No storms, no traffic, no distractions. Just the simple rhythm of the clock on the wall and the coolness of my pillow beneath my cheek. I slipped into that comforting in-between place where sleep feels like a soft tide pulling you under. The first strange thing I noticed was how real my dream felt. I was walking through my own apartment, but something was off. The walls looked stretched, the corners too sharp, the shadows too long. Felt wrong, but not frightening yet. I wandered from room to room, barefoot, and when I touched the walls, they felt warm, like skin instead of paint. That's when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong in dreams. Breathing, not mine. It came from the bedroom, low and steady, almost like a growl. I told myself I'd wake up any second, but when I tried to open my eyes, nothing happened. My body was gone. I couldn't move, couldn't shift, couldn't twitch a finger. I was trapped in that dream version of my apartment, but I also knew I was lying in my real bed. Two places at once. I turned toward the sound, and there it was. A figure crouched in the corner of my room, its shape melting in and out of the shadows. It had no eyes, yet I felt its gaze locked on me. My chest tightened as though something pressed down with invisible hands. The harder I fought to breathe, the heavier the weight became. I tried to scream, but my mouth wouldn't open. My body on the bed was useless, paralyzed. Then it moved. Slowly, deliberately, the figure crawled across the floor, each movement jerky and unnatural, like a puppet pulled by broken strings. It climbed onto the bed, the mattress dipping under its weight. I could feel the springs groan beneath me even though I knew this was supposed to be a dream. Its face hovered inches from mine, and though it had no features, I sensed a smile. Not kind, predatory. I thought this would be the climax, the peak of the nightmare, but it was only the beginning. The thing leaned closer until I felt hot breath against my neck. And then, in a voice that scraped like gravel, it whispered, "I can kill you here. If I kill you here, you die there too." Panic ripped through me, but I was trapped inside my own skin. I tried reciting prayers in my head, tried screaming internally, but the more I fought, the deeper I sank. My chest burned as though my lungs were being crushed flat. My vision blurred. I was seconds away from passing out when suddenly, like a rubber band snapping. I jolted awake. The room looked normal. My lamp, my fan, my nightstand, all in place. But I didn't move. I was terrified too. My chest still ached, my throat raw as if I had been choking. Then I noticed something that drained every ounce of relief I had. The mattress. It was still sinking near my legs, as though someone was sitting there. I kept my eyes locked on the ceiling, praying it would vanish. But the weight didn't lift. Instead, the growl returned, low and guttural, vibrating against the walls. I forced my head to the side, every nerve screaming at me not to look. And there it was again, the faceless figure, crouched inches from me, its hand hovering over my chest. My breath caught and it leaned in close. This time it didn't speak. It just pressed its palm against my sternum, and the pressure was unbearable. I thought my ribs would crack. I tried with everything in me to move, to wake, to run. And then, like before, the scene snapped. I sat up gasping, drenched in sweat, my body trembling as though I'd run for miles. I told myself I was awake this time. I had to be. But when I looked down, my blanket was pulled tight across my chest, pressed down by invisible weight. The hours crawled by until morning light filtered through the blinds, and only then did the pressure fade. I got out of bed and swore I'd never sleep again. But exhaustion always wins. That night, when I finally surrendered to it, I told myself it had been just a nightmare, stress, or some twisted form of sleep paralysis. Except when I woke the next morning, I found deep bruises across my chest, finger-shaped marks pressed into my skin. They say you can't die from sleep paralysis, that it's just a trick of the brain. But how do you explain bruises left by something you couldn't see? How do you explain the voice that promised to kill you in your sleep? So I'll ask you, what do you think it was? A dream? Or something far darker trying to drag me into its world? Story 3. If you ever wake up and see someone standing at the foot of your bed, don't assume it's a dream. Don't assume it's your imagination either. I made that mistake, and I'll never unsee what was really there. A woman who never blinked, who never moved, who only stood and stared as though she had all the time in the world to wait for me. The night it started was like any other. I had gone to bed late, tired from a long day. My fan was on, humming quietly, and the glow from my phone charger lit a small corner of the room. I turned over, wrapped myself in the blanket, and felt that deep calm of drifting off. The house was peaceful. I could hear the faint ticking of the clock in the living room and nothing else. Everything about the night was normal. At some point, I stirred awake. Not fully awake, just that groggy kind of half-conscious state. My room looked the same as always, dim and familiar. But there was something different this time. Someone was standing at the foot of my bed. My eyes squinted through the blur of sleep, and what I saw made my stomach tighten. It was a woman. She had long black hair, pale skin, and she was wearing a dress I didn't recognize. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just stood there, staring. I told myself I must have been dreaming. I shut my eyes tight, rolled over, and tried to force myself back to sleep. When I finally gathered the courage to peek again, the space was empty. Relieved, I pulled the blanket over my head and told myself it had just been my imagination. But the next night, she was back. Same spot, same posture, same unblinking eyes fixed on me. This time, I sat up in bed, squinting into the dark. My voice came out shaky as I asked, "Who are you?" She didn't answer. She didn't flinch. She just stared, her face pale and frozen. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was still half asleep, but when I opened them again, she was still there. Then, without any sound or warning, she was gone. I didn't tell anyone at first. I thought maybe I was overtired, maybe stressed, but it kept happening. Every night, around the same time, I would wake up to see her standing there, always at the foot of the bed, always staring, never blinking. Sometimes she looked slightly closer, like the space between us had shrunk. Other times she was farther, like she was testing how near she could get without making me scream. By the fourth night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I left a lamp on, hoping the light would chase her away, but it didn't. That night, when I opened my eyes, She was standing in the same spot, the lamp shining directly on her. Her eyes reflected the light, glassy and unblinking. It was worse seeing her clearly. Her face didn't look alive. Her skin was pale and stretched tight, her lips thin and colorless. She was like a mannequin someone had forgotten in my room. I was curious but also terrified. I started experimenting, trying to see if she would react. I spoke out loud, whispered questions, even waved my hand. She never answered. She never moved. She only stared. I tried ignoring her, but the harder I tried not to look, the more I felt her presence. The pressure of her gaze was so strong it kept me awake until morning. One night, the tension broke. I woke up to see her again, but this time she wasn't at the foot of the bed. She was standing at the side, right near my legs. Her eyes were still locked on mine, wide and glassy, and for the first time, her lips moved. They didn't form words. They just stretched into a smile so wide it didn't look human. My whole body froze. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I blinked hard, praying she would vanish. When I opened my eyes, she was gone. That was the first night I couldn't go back to sleep at all. I sat up with the lights on until dawn, every muscle tense, waiting for her to return. The next day, I was exhausted at work, but no one could understand why I was so shaken. How do you explain to someone that a woman who never blinks comes into your room every night? The next encounter was the worst. I had started to believe she only appeared when I was in bed. So one night I decided to sleep on the couch in the living room. I turned on the TV for comfort, left a lamp burning, and curled up with a blanket. Hours passed peacefully, and I thought maybe I had outsmarted her. But sometime after 3 a.m., I woke with that same heavy feeling of being watched. Slowly, I turned my head toward the hallway. She was there, not in the bedroom, not at the foot of my bed, but standing in the hallway where the glow of the lamp only partly reached. Her head was tilted, her face pale, her eyes wide, and even though she was far, I could still tell. She wasn't blinking. I squeezed my eyes shut, pulled the blanket over me, and prayed to hear the morning birds. When I finally worked up the nerve to look again, she was gone. But now I knew the truth. She wasn't tied to the bedroom. She could follow me anywhere in the house. That knowledge ruined any sense of safety I had left. I tried everything after that. Sleeping with lights, with music, even with friends on the phone. Nothing worked. She kept coming. She never spoke, never blinked, but her presence grew heavier. One night, I swore I felt the mattress dip near my feet as though she had stepped closer than ever before. I didn't dare open my eyes. Now, every time I close my eyes, I wonder if she'll be there when I wake up again. And if she is, will she finally do more than stare? Would you look directly at her? Or would you pretend to sleep and hope she goes away? Tell me what you would do. Story 4. They say sleep paralysis happens when your brain wakes up before your body. Doctors call it harmless. But what if you wake up and realize you're not alone in your own body anymore? That's what happened to me. One night, I couldn't tell if I was trapped by sleep paralysis or if something had crawled inside me and decided not to leave. The night started like any other. I was lying in bed with my fan on low, listening to the faint hum as I scrolled my phone. The room was quiet except for the ticking of my old wall clock. I yawned, set the phone on the nightstand, and turned off the lamp. My blanket was warm, my pillow cool, and I drifted into that soft half-sleep where dreams usually begin. Nothing felt unusual. I don't remember when it started. One moment I was dreaming about walking down a road, and the next, I opened my eyes and realized I was back in my bed. Only something was wrong. My eyes were open, but my body wouldn't move. I tried wiggling my toes, nothing. I tried turning my head, still nothing. I thought, okay, this must be sleep paralysis. I'd read about it before. People say it's scary, but harmless. Then I heard the sound. Breathing, but not mine. Slow, heavy, like someone was crouched beside the bed. My heart started racing, but I couldn't even lift a finger. I wanted to convince myself it was in my head, but the mattress shifted, as though someone had pressed a hand down near my legs. I was wide awake. I knew this wasn't just a dream. I was curious, but also terrified. My eyes darted around the room, the only thing I could control. That's when I saw it. A shadow leaning over me, darker than the rest of the room. It didn't have a clear face, but I knew it was staring straight at me. My lips parted, but no sound came out. I was a prisoner in my own body. At first, I thought it was just watching me. But then, without warning, my chest tightened. I felt something heavy pressing down on me, crushing the air out of my lungs. I gasped in my mind, screaming silently for help, but no one could hear me. My eyes watered as I fought to breathe. And then the worst part happened. My mouth opened wider, but not because of me. It was as if invisible hands were forcing it open. My jaw ached, stretched to the point of pain, and I felt something warm slide down my throat, like smoke, thick and burning. It wasn't air. It wasn't real. It was something else, and I couldn't stop it. For the first time in my life, I didn't just feel trapped. I felt invaded. Something was moving inside me, filling me, like it wanted to take over. My thoughts weren't my own anymore. A voice whispered, not out loud, but inside my head, low, guttural, and mocking. It said, "You're mine now. Stop fighting." I tried to scream against it, tried to push it out, but I couldn't even control my tongue. My body shook, my vision blurred, and I thought I was about to pass out. Then, all at once, the pressure lifted. I could breathe again. My body jerked as though released from invisible chains. I shot upright, coughing and gasping, clutching my chest. The room looked normal, everything in its place. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still inside me. My body didn't feel like mine. My hands trembled, and when I tried to speak out loud, my voice came out hoarse, as if I hadn't spoken in days. I told myself it had been sleep paralysis. That's what science would say. But that night didn't end there. Hours later, after I finally convinced myself to lie back down, I closed my eyes and drifted again. Almost instantly, I felt it return. My body froze, my chest locked. The pressure was back, heavier than before. This time, I didn't just hear the voice, I felt it. Spoke through me using my own mouth. My lips moved without my control. A harsh whisper spilled out into the room. Words I didn't recognize in a language I'd never learned. The sound terrified me more than anything else. I wasn't just being held down. I was being used. I tried to fight it with every ounce of strength left in me. In my head, I kept repeating, "This isn't yours. This is my body. Get out." I don't know if it heard me, but suddenly my whole body jerked violently, like something inside was being ripped away. The room fell silent. I could move again, but the victory was short-lived. When I sat up, my blanket slid off, and I saw long scratches across my chest. Red, angry marks, like claws had dragged across my skin. I stared in shock, my hands shaking as I touched them. They stung, but what scared me most was knowing I hadn't made them myself. The rest of that night, I didn't sleep. I kept every light on, sat up against the wall, and waited for morning. When the sun finally rose, the scratches were still there. Not as deep, but real enough that I knew what I experienced wasn't just in my head. Even now, I don't know what happened. Sleep paralysis? Maybe. But how do you explain speaking in a voice that wasn't mine? How do you explain scratches that appeared while I was frozen, unable to move? So I'll leave the question with you. Was I experiencing a glitch of the brain? Or did something darker take over my body for those few moments? What do you believe? Story 5. If you ever close your eyes at night and feel something press down on your chest, don't convince yourself it's a dream. One night I shut my eyes, thinking I was drifting off to sleep, and something heavy began crawling across me, slow and steady, like it was claiming me piece by piece. I still don't know what it was, and I'm not sure I want to find out. It started on a night that should have been ordinary. I had spent the whole day working and was too tired to even cook. I took a quick shower, turned the fan on, and crawled into bed. The sheets were cool, and the hum of the fan made me feel calm. Outside, the street was quiet. I scrolled through my phone for a few minutes, then put it on the nightstand and stretched out flat on my back. It was one of those nights where I just wanted to melt into the mattress and disappear into sleep. As I lay there, my breathing slowed, and my body felt heavy in that strange way that comes right before sleep. I wasn't worried about anything. My room was safe. The only sound was the fan spinning lazily in the corner. I blinked a few times, then closed my eyes for good, letting myself drift. That's when I felt it. At first, it was just a small pressure near my collarbone. My mind told me it was the blanket shifting, but the pressure grew more distinct. Pressed down with weight, not fabric. Then came movement. Something began crawling down my chest. Slow, deliberate, almost like it was testing me. My first instinct was to brush at it, but when I tried to lift my arm, I realized I couldn't move. It was as if my body had turned to stone. My fingers twitched slightly, but I couldn't sit up. I lay there helpless while the thing kept moving across me. It was strange. Light enough that I knew it wasn't a person, but heavy enough that I knew it wasn't my imagination. Each step felt real. The crawl was steady, moving down from my collarbone to the center of my chest. I could feel what seemed like tiny limbs, more than two, shifting carefully over me. I kept telling myself, "You're dreaming. You're dreaming." But it didn't feel like a dream. My eyes were closed, but I was aware of the room. The fan, the faint light sneaking through the curtain, the exact position of my body. I could feel everything. The thing was real. I forced my eyes open, but the room looked wrong. Not completely, but just enough to make me doubt myself. The shadows were darker than they should have been. The fan seemed slower, as if moving through thick air. I looked down at my chest, and though it was dim, I saw movement, a darker patch on my body, shifting as if dozens of tiny legs were carrying it forward. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I could only stare as the crawling moved lower, reaching my ribs. The weight pressed harder, almost crushing. Then it stopped, right over my heart. For a long, unbearable moment, it just sat there, heavy, waiting. I thought I was going to pass out. Then, slowly, it began crawling again, this time up toward my throat. I wanted to thrash, to throw it off, but my body betrayed me. My lips parted, and for a second I felt a brush of cold against them. Like whatever it was had leaned in close, curious. Then I blinked, and the weight was gone. My body jerked free all at once. I sat up, gasping, clutching my chest. My shirt was damp with sweat, but the skin beneath burned with a faint, stinging sensation. When I looked in the mirror the next morning, there were shallow red lines trailing across my chest, thin and sharp, as if something with claws had walked across me. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, maybe from scratching myself in my sleep. But the crawling returned the following night, and the night after, always when I closed my eyes, always when I began to slip into that in-between state of rest. Each time it grew bolder. The crawling lasted longer, heavier. Sometimes it circled my chest before moving down toward my stomach. Sometimes it would stop at my throat, making it hard to breathe. I'd fight to wake up, my body locked, until finally the weight vanished. But the marks remained. Little scratches, faint bruises, once even a purplish patch that looked like something had pressed me too hard. I tried everything. Sleeping on my side, sleeping with the lights on, sleeping with music playing. It didn't matter. The crawling always found me. It was as if closing my eyes was an invitation, and once I did, I could feel it waiting. One night, I made a mistake. I told myself I would face it. I lay down, eyes closed, and waited. The crawling began right away, heavier than ever. This time, it didn't stop at my chest. Crawled up to my face. My lips trembled as I felt tiny, sharp points trace across my jaw, my cheeks. I wanted to scream, but my mouth wouldn't open. Then, right at my ear, I felt something wet and cold drag across my skin, followed by a faint hiss that sounded almost like words, but too twisted to understand. I snapped awake, choking. My pillow was wet, not with sweat, but with a thin streak of dark liquid that smelled faintly metallic. I threw the pillow away the next day. I don't know what it is or why it chose me. Maybe it's just my mind, but if it is, then why does it leave marks? Why does it feel so real? Every time I try to rest, I know it's waiting. And every night, it climbs back onto me, slow and steady, as if it owns me. I don't close my eyes easily anymore. Even now, I'm scared to let sleep take me, because I know the moment I do, the thing will crawl across my chest again, waiting to claim me piece by piece. Would you keep closing your eyes at night, knowing something is waiting for you the moment you drift off? Story 6. I had always heard people talk about seeing strange figures during sleep paralysis. Some described dark shadows. Others swore they saw demons pressing them down. I used to think maybe it was the brain playing tricks. That was until it happened to me, and what I saw was not a shadow or a demon. It was me. It started on a night when I was very tired. I had stayed up late working, and by the time I lay on my bed, my whole body felt heavy. I fell asleep almost instantly, but sometime around 3 a.m., I woke up. At least my eyes were open, but I couldn't move a single part of my body. My chest felt pinned, my arms useless, my legs frozen. I knew what it was immediately: sleep paralysis. At first, I just stared at the ceiling, trying not to panic. I told myself it would pass in a few seconds. Then I heard a sound. It was the sound of someone shifting on the bed. My heart raced. Slowly, my eyes moved toward the left side of my bed. That was when I saw it. Sitting calmly on the edge of my mattress was me. Not someone who looked vaguely like me, not a stranger with my face. It was me in every detail. Same hair, same face, same clothes I wore to bed. It sat upright, hands resting neatly on its knees, staring straight ahead as if deep in thought. I wanted to scream, but my mouth wouldn't open. I wanted to thrash, but my body wouldn't move. My mind was loud with fear, but outside, everything was quiet. The only sound in the room was the faint creak of the mattress under its weight. Then, slowly, it turned its head and looked at me. The way its eyes met mine sent a cold shiver through me. It was like looking into a mirror, except the reflection was alive, separate, and aware. Its expression was blank, but there was something deeply unsettling in its stillness. My chest grew tighter. I tried to close my eyes, thinking maybe it would disappear if I stopped looking. But when I opened them again, it was still there, closer this time. It had shifted from sitting to crouching near my face, watching me with unblinking eyes. I could see every detail: the curve of its jaw, the tiny scar on my chin from when I fell as a child, even the faint line of tiredness under my eyes. But the way it smiled, that was not my smile. It was stretched too wide, unnatural, like it had borrowed my face but didn't know how to wear it. I was sure my heart would stop beating. My chest burned with the effort to breathe. I tried to will my body awake, to force movement, but nothing worked. All I could do was stare as it leaned even closer. Its face hovered just inches above mine. I could feel a strange coldness radiating from it, as though the air itself around me had frozen. Then it whispered, "I'm not leaving." The voice was my voice, but lower, heavier, like it came from somewhere deep inside the earth. My ears rang with the sound of it. I wanted to shout back, to deny it, to tell it to go away, but no words left my mouth. It reached out its hand, my hand, and placed it on my chest. The moment it touched me, the pressure increased. It felt like a heavy stone pressing me deeper into the mattress. My vision blurred at the edges. I was certain I was going to suffocate, but then, just as suddenly, it pulled back. It sat again at the edge of the bed, calm, patient, like it had all the time in the world. Its eyes never left me, and then I blinked. When my eyes opened again, the room was empty. My chest heaved as air rushed back into my lungs. My arms flung out, my legs kicked, and I finally regained control of my body. I sat up, gasping, drenched in sweat. I looked around frantically. My room was exactly as it had always been. My phone was on the nightstand. My clothes hung from the chair in the corner. Nothing looked disturbed. Nothing seemed out of place, except for me. Because deep inside, I knew what I had seen wasn't a dream. It wasn't some shadow figure my brain invented. I had seen myself, another version of me, sitting on my bed, smiling with a face that was mine but not mine. The worst part? When I finally looked into the mirror later that morning, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The smile I had seen on that thing. It flickered across my face for just a second. Not by choice, not because I wanted to smile, but because it forced itself out of me. And now, sometimes when I'm alone, I feel it watching. I catch myself smiling in ways that don't feel like mine. I lie awake, too scared to close my eyes, because I know the moment sleep paralysis takes me again, it will come back. And this time, I don't think it will stop at just sitting on the bed. Story 7. The first time it happened, I thought I was losing my mind. It was around 2:30 in the morning. I had been asleep for a few hours when I suddenly woke up. My eyes were open, but my body wouldn't move. I lay flat on my back, staring at the ceiling, frozen. At first, I thought maybe I was just groggy, that I could roll over if I really tried. But no matter how hard I willed my arms or legs to move, nothing happened. I knew right away this was sleep paralysis. I had read about it before. Some people saw figures in their rooms, others felt pressure on their chest. I told myself to stay calm and wait it out. But then I heard it. My name. Soft at first, like someone whispering right beside my ear. Michael. My blood ran cold. I lived alone. Nobody should have been in that room with me. My heart pounded, but my body stayed stiff. I tried to tell myself it was a dream, some trick of the brain. But before I could settle on that thought, the whisper came again. Louder this time. Michael. The sound was strange. It wasn't just one voice. It was layered, like several people whispering at the same time, all saying my name. Male, female, young, old. It was like a crowd whispering in unison. The sound moved around me, circling the bed. Sometimes it was at my ear, other times it was at my feet, then above my head. But no matter where it came from, I couldn't turn to look. I wanted to scream, but my throat was locked. The voices kept going, growing faster, overlapping each other. Michael, Michael, Michael. Then one of them changed. Instead of just saying my name, it said, "Get up." The command cut through the rest like a knife. For a moment, I actually felt my body twitch, like it was trying to obey. But I couldn't move no matter how much I wanted to. I was trapped. Get up, get up, get up. The voices repeated, some urgent, some calm, all blending together. And then I realized something that made my blood run even colder. The whispers didn't sound like strangers anymore. They sounded familiar. I could hear my mother's voice, my best friend's voice, even my own voice mixed in. All of them saying my name. All of them telling me to get up. But I couldn't. I tried to squeeze my eyes shut, hoping to block it out. That was when I felt the breath. A cold rush of air brushed against my cheek, like someone's mouth was right next to me. A single voice whispered, clear as day, "If you don't get up now, you'll never wake up." My chest tightened. Panic shot through me. I fought harder than ever to move, to break free, but my body stayed glued to the mattress. I wanted to cry, to beg, to plead, but nothing came out. The voices grew louder, almost angry now. Michael, Michael, get up, get up. They filled the room, bouncing off the walls, echoing in my skull. I could feel the vibration in my bones. And then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, everything went silent. The sudden quiet was almost worse. My ears rang with the absence of sound. My heart hammered in my chest. I was afraid to even breathe. Then I felt something climb onto the bed. The mattress dipped by my feet, then again near my legs, like someone crawling up toward me. My skin prickled as the weight shifted closer and closer until it was right on top of me. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it hovering just inches above my face. And then, in a single sharp whisper, it said, "Last chance." With everything in me, I forced a scream, tore out of my throat like fire, breaking the silence. My body jolted awake. I sat up so fast I almost fell off the bed. My chest heaved, sweat soaked through my shirt, and the room spun around me. But I was free. I sat there for a long time, gasping, clutching the sheets in my fists. My lamp was still on, my door was locked, everything looked normal. But I couldn't shake the memory of those voices, especially the one that sounded like me. I told myself it was just sleep paralysis, just the brain misfiring, just a trick. But that didn't explain why the whispers had known my name, or why one of them had sounded exactly like my own voice. And the worst part? That night wasn't the last time. It happened 3 more times since then. Always in the middle of the night, always when I can't move. The whispers return, calling my name, circling me, filling the room. Every time they get louder, every time they get closer, and every time the voice that sounds like me grows stronger. Last night, when it happened again, I heard it clearer than ever. My own voice whispered, almost laughing, "Next time, you won't wake up. I don't know how much longer I can take this." Story 8. I used to tell myself sleep paralysis was just a glitch in the brain, a nightmare that spilled into waking up. Nothing more. Then it followed me. The first time it happened, I was 19 and living in a college dorm. I woke up at 3:11 a.m., my arms pinned to my sides, my legs locked. I could see the outline of my roommate's desk, the glow of the alarm clock, the posters on the wall. Everything looked normal except for the shape in the corner. It was tall, too tall to be a person, thin as a coat rack, with arms that hung lower than they should. Its head almost touched the ceiling. I couldn't see its face, but I felt it staring at me. It didn't move, didn't breathe. It just stood there. I tried to close my eyes, but my eyelids wouldn't work. My heart slammed against my ribs. My chest felt like a heavy stone was sitting on it. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I just lay there, trapped, staring at it. Then it leaned forward, slowly, like a tree bending in the wind. Its arms stretched toward me. I thought, this is it. This is the moment it touches me. But just as its fingers brushed the edge of my blanket, my body jolted awake. I shot up, gasping. The shape was gone. My roommate was snoring softly, unaware of anything. I told myself it was sleep paralysis, just a dream, my mind playing tricks. I believed that until 3 weeks later. I was in the library writing a paper. It was around midnight, almost empty except for a guy at another table. I bent over my laptop, typing. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone standing between the shelves. A tall, thin shape, arms hanging low. My head jerked up. The space was empty. No one there. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was tired. Maybe my brain remembered that night in the dorm. But then it happened again. I was walking back from a late class, earbuds in, music low. It was cold, the street lamps casting weak circles of light on the sidewalk. I felt someone behind me, tall, slow steps keeping pace with mine. I turned. Nothing. But the steps didn't stop. I yanked my earbuds out. The street was quiet. My breath puffed in the cold air. I walked faster. The feeling of being watched clung to me all the way back to my dorm. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for it to happen again. And it did. This time when I woke up, the thing wasn't in the corner. It was right next to my bed. Its long fingers hung inches above my face. Its head tilted sideways like it was studying me. "Do you miss me?" A voice whispered. The sound didn't come from its head. It came from everywhere. The walls, the floor, inside my own skull. I tried to fight, to move, to scream, but nothing worked. The thing's fingers brushed my blanket. Cold shot through me like ice water. "I like it here," the voice said. "You brought me." The room spun. My vision blurred. I felt myself sinking, like the mattress was swallowing me whole. Then, with a sudden jerk, I could move again. I bolted upright, clawing at my sheets. The thing was gone. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. After that, it started showing up when I was awake. I catch it reflected in windows or mirrors. A tall black shape in the corner of my eye. Once, while walking across campus at dusk, I saw its shadow stretch across the grass next to mine, long arms dragging behind. But when I turned, no one was there. I stopped telling myself it was just my imagination. This wasn't sleep paralysis anymore. It was something else. Last Friday, it came closer than ever. I was in the laundry room in the basement of my dorm. It was late. The place was empty except for the hum of machines. I bent to pull clothes from the dryer. When I stood up, it was behind me, tall, thin, head bent, long arms reaching. This time I wasn't frozen. This time I was awake. I backed up until my shoulders hit the dryer. "What do you want?" I whispered. It didn't move. The air around me turned cold. My breath fogged. "You brought me," it whispered. "Now you can't send me back." I blinked and it was gone. Just gone. I left the laundry half done and ran back upstairs. I locked my door, turned on every light, and sat on my bed shaking. I didn't sleep at all that night. Now it's every day. I see it at the edge of crowds, in hallways, reflected in glass doors. Sometimes it's just a flicker. Sometimes it's there long enough to make me stop in my tracks. Once, during a lecture, I saw its shadow stretch across the floor toward me even though there was no one standing there. And last night it spoke again. I was lying in bed, wide awake, the room bright with lamplight. I felt something brush my ankle. I looked down and saw a long, black hand curling over the edge of my mattress. "You're not asleep," it whispered. "Now I'm real." I jumped up, knocked over the lamp, and backed into the corner of my room. The hand slid back under the bed. When I looked again, nothing was there. I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to make it go away. I don't even know if anyone would believe me. But I'm writing this because last night, before it vanished, it leaned close to my ear and said, "Next time, you won't wake up at all." And for the first time, I believe it. Story 9. I've never been scared of the dark. I grew up in a small town in Michigan where power outages happened all the time, and I used to read by flashlight under my blanket. Darkness was just darkness. Until that night. It was a Sunday. I'd spent the day cleaning my apartment, doing laundry, and catching up on work. By the time I went to bed, it was close to 1 a.m. I left the blinds open because the moonlight made the room glow just enough for me to see. My phone was charging on the nightstand. The street outside was silent. I lay on my back, scrolling through social media until my eyes grew heavy. I placed the phone face down and pulled the blanket to my chin. My apartment was quiet except for the faint hum of the fridge in the kitchen. I must have fallen asleep quickly. I don't know what woke me. 1 second, I was dreaming about something mundane, walking through a grocery store, and the next, I was awake. My eyes opened. My body didn't move. At first, I thought it was just a normal half-awake state. But then I realized I couldn't move anything. Not my hands, not my legs, not even my lips. My breathing was shallow and slow. The moonlight fell across my bed, and that's when I saw it. A shadow on the wall. It wasn't my shadow. It wasn't shaped like anything in my room. It stood at the corner by the closet. It was taller than the door frame, wide at the shoulders, tapering at the bottom like smoke. It wasn't still, pulsed like it was breathing. I wanted to close my eyes but couldn't. I wanted to scream but couldn't. I just lay there, staring at it. The shadow began to move. It didn't walk. It glided. Across the wall, across the ceiling, until it hovered above me. The moonlight dimmed as it passed over. It didn't have a face, just a darker spot where a head should be. And then I felt it. A hand. Cold, but not like ice. It was a pressure on my arm. Fingers wrapping around my wrist. Not heavy, but unmistakable. Another hand slid across my chest. It wasn't pushing down. It was exploring, like it was trying to understand what I was made of. My heart pounded, but my body stayed stiff. The shadow bent closer. I couldn't see a mouth, but I could feel its breath against my face. A faint chill. Then it touched my throat. Lightly at first, just fingertips, then more firmly. Couldn't swallow. My breath hitched. Inside my head, a voice whispered. It didn't sound male or female. It was just a sound that formed words. "You're awake," it said. "I wondered when you'd notice me." I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight. Nothing worked. My eyes darted around the room, but the rest of me stayed frozen. The shadow leaned closer until the dark spot where its face should be hovered inches above mine. "You're warm," it whispered. "I like warm." Its fingers slid up my neck, across my jaw, to my lips. Pressed one cold finger against them. Shoo, it said. No noise. I don't know how long it held me there. Could have been seconds. Could have been minutes. My mind raced with panic. Then, without warning, it slid back. His hands lifted. The pressure on my chest vanished. It floated toward the corner again. But before it faded, it turned. The dark shape tilted like a head cocking to the side. Next time, it whispered. And then I could move. I sat up gasping, my chest heaving. The moonlight was still there. The closet door was still closed. Everything looked exactly the same. I rubbed my wrists. They felt cold where the fingers had been. I told myself it was sleep paralysis. A nightmare. A trick of the brain. But the cold stayed on my skin for hours, even after I turned on the lights and checked every corner of my apartment. I didn't sleep again that night. Since then, it's happened twice more. Each time, I wake up frozen. Each time, the shadow is closer. Each time, its hands linger longer. Last night, it whispered something new. This time it said, "Soon you won't wake up at all." I don't know what that means, but I'm scared to find out. Story 10. I never believed in demons. I grew up in a house where nightmares were just bad dreams and ghosts were stories adults told to scare kids. Even after all the sleep paralysis episodes I've had, I always told myself it was just my brain misfiring. But what happened last month changed everything. It was a Thursday night. I'd stayed up late grading papers on my laptop, drinking too much coffee. By the time I went to bed, it was past 2 a.m. The room was dim. Only the streetlight outside threw a pale stripe across my wall. I left the window cracked open to let cool air in. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling fan turning slowly above me. The hum of traffic in the distance was low and steady. My eyelids grew heavy. I closed them. When I opened them again, the room was different. I didn't notice at first. Everything looked the same, the fan, the window, the faint light. But I couldn't move. My arms and legs were heavy as stone. My chest rose and fell shallowly. I tried to blink, but even that felt slow. Something was sitting on me. At first it was just pressure, like a heavy blanket. Then it grew heavier. My ribs ached under the weight. I tried to lift my head, but it wouldn't budge. I looked down as far as my eyes would go. A shape crouched on my chest. It was small but dense, like it weighed twice as much as me. Its skin was the color of ash, its hands long and clawed. Its knees bent backward like a bird's. Its face hovered inches from mine. It had no eyes, only two pits that sank into its skull. Its mouth was wide, stretching almost to its ears. Rows of teeth, sharp and wet, glinted in the faint light. Couldn't scream. It leaned closer, its mouth opening wider. A hiss came out, low and steady, like steam from a pipe. My chest burned. I tried to suck in air, but nothing moved. The weight pressed down harder and harder until my vision blurred. Inside my head a voice spoke, not like words in a dream. Clear, direct, like someone whispering into my ear from inside my skull. "Stop breathing," it said. "It's easier." I tried to shake my head. Nothing happened. "Stop breathing," it said again, almost soft now. "Let go." The thing's claws dug lightly into my shoulders. I felt cold spread from its fingers through my skin. Its head tilted as if studying me. "You're mine now," it whispered. The room darkened. The corners of my vision went black. I thought, this is it. This is how I die. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the weight lifted. I sucked in air so hard I almost choked. My arms flung up on their own. I sat upright, gasping, coughing, clutching my chest. The thing was gone. The window was still cracked, the streetlight still shining through, everything the same. I ran to the bathroom and turned on the light. My shoulders had faint red marks where the claws had been. I stared at them in the mirror, shaking. It had been just a dream, I told myself. Sleep paralysis, a hallucination. But when I touched my skin, the marks burned like a bruise. I didn't go back to sleep that night. For a few days nothing happened. I almost convinced myself it was over. Then last week, I felt it again. Not while I was asleep. While I was awake. I was sitting on the couch watching TV. My roommate had gone out. The apartment was quiet. Suddenly my chest felt heavy, like someone was pressing down on it. I looked up and saw movement in the hallway. A small, ash-colored shape crouched at the end, watching me. I blinked. It didn't vanish. It crawled toward me on backward bent legs, claws scraping the hardwood. My breath caught. I couldn't move. My vision tunneled. It stopped just short of the living room, tilted its head, and whispered, "See? I don't need your sleep anymore." Then it was gone. Since that night, I feel the weight on my chest even when nothing's there. I wake up with bruises I can't explain. Sometimes, in the mirror, I see teeth glinting behind me where no one stands. I don't know what it wants. I don't know why it picked me. All I know is that it's not just in my dreams anymore. And last night, right before I fell asleep, I heard its voice again. Next time, it said, "I won't get off. Now I'm scared to sleep at all."